A man climbs a mountain of jagged red granite. The ground beneath his bare feet is vibrating, and the high desert air smells like ozone and burning rock of the mountain. At the actual words spoken in the cloud, you start to see something the courtroom reading completely misses. He knows how to find his way home when he misses the mark. He loves the instruction because the instruction is keeping him alive. The ancient Israelite did not see God's word as a cage. They saw it as the only safe road through a world filled with traps. The scribe knew exactly what he was holding. But as the centuries passed, the text traveled west. The language changed. The culture shifted. The path was paved over, and a cold marble courthouse was built directly on top of it. And a new generation decided they wanted nothing to do with the judge. You sit in a quiet room, feeling the heavy, suffocating weight of an impossible standard, wondering how a religion designed to bring peace only seems to produce a low-grade anxiety in your chest. Or maybe you stopped sitting in those rooms a long time ago. You grew up breathing the air of this mistranslation. It is woven into the sermons you have heard, the guilt you have carried, and the defensive posture you instinctively adopt whenever the word sin is spoken aloud. You were handed a cold Roman legal document by well-meaning people, and you were told to call it a relationship. And your response to that dynamic, whether it was crushing exhaustion, constant anxiety, or walking out the doors entirely, makes complete, rational sense. If you genuinely believe that the creator of the universe, the people at the base of Sinai, are not citizens of a functional republic, they are ex-slaves. They have spent 400 years making bricks, is primarily a magistrate. Your entire spiritual life devolves into an exhausting exercise in risk management. You do not open the scriptures to find a lantern for a dark path. You open them to figure out exactly how close to the edge you can walk without triggering a penalty. You carefully manage your outward behavior. You bury your internal failures deep in the dark. You live under the constant, creeping suspicion that the gavel is already in motion, and it changes how you treat everyone else. When you live your life under the crushing weight of nomos, you do not just view God as a judge. You become one. You start carrying your own miniature gavel. You look at the people around you not as fellow archers struggling with bruised fingers to hold the bow, but as defendants failing to meet the standard. The courtroom framework poisons the entire community. This is the quiet tragedy of modern Western faith. We rebelled against the rules because the rules felt like a suffocating cage. But the rebellion was based on a linguistic illusion. The deep resentment you might feel toward a rigid, demand-driven deity is not actually a rebellion against the God of the Hebrew text. It is a rebellion against nomos. It is the total rejection of, in the mud under the crack of an Egyptian whip. They do not know how to be free. They do not know how to build a stub, a Greek philosophical construct, and a Latin legal framework that the ancient Israelites would not have even recognized. God is not a warden, tracking your daily infractions. He is a father watching you walk dangerously close to a cliff. When the text says, "Thou shalt not," the modern, legally conditioned mind instantly hears a threat of impending punishment. We hear a dictator asserting control over his subjects. But the ancient, desert-conditioned mind heard something entirely different. They heard a warning about the natural, destructive consequences of missing the mark. If a father tells his child not to place their bare hand on a burning stone oven, and the child disobeys and touches it, the blistering of the skin is not a judicial penalty imposed by an angry judge. The burn is simply the reality of the fire. The father's command was not an exercise in asserting dominance. It was a desperate, protective act of love, designed to keep the child's flesh intact. But to truly see this dynamic in action, you have to leave the ancient desert and fast forward to the 1st century. You have to look at what happens when the ultimate teacher finally arrives on a grassy hillside to correct the grip of a deeply confused people. A rabbi sits on a grassy hillside overlooking a massive blue lake. The wind pulls at his garments. Society. How to resolve a conflict without violence. Or how to worship a God who cannot be carved out of wood. The smell of crushed wild mustard hangs in the heavy spring air. Thousands of people sit in the dirt, their faces turned upward, absolutely silent. They are waiting for a ruling. For centuries, the religious elite have managed the text. They have taken the ancient Torah and fully converted it into nomos. They have built a prison of 613 iron bars. They count the exact number of steps a man can walk on the Sabbath. They measure the exact tenth of the mint and cumin harvested from their garden boxes. They have turned the divine compass into a crushing legal burden. And then Jesus opens his mouth. You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, "You shall not murder." But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Listen to the rhythm of his voice. You have heard, "Do not commit adultery." But I say, "Do not lust." You have heard, "Eye for an eye." But I say, "Turn the cheek." You have heard, "Love your neighbor." But I say, "Love your enemy." If you read this through the lens of a Roman courtroom, Jesus is making the law impossibly harder. He is raising the bar so high that every single human being in the crowd instantly fails. The magistrate has gone mad, criminalizing not just physical behavior, but invisible, internal thought. But Jesus is not in a courtroom. He is in a field. They are accustomed to pharaohs who speak only in edicts and executions. They expect a deity who demands compliance through terror. Watch what he is actually doing with the text. He is stepping behind a broken, exhausted people. He is placing his hands over their trembling hands. He is adjusting the grip. He is not drafting new legislation. He is restoring the ancient instruction. He is pushing past the external boundary of the law and driving straight to the formational core of the human heart. The religious elite wanted a system where they could technically keep the rules, while their hearts remained cold, bitter, and divided. They wanted to hit the target without ever changing their posture. Jesus shatters the illusion. This is not an expansion of the penal code. It is a return to the Father's field. He strips away the courtroom. He tears down the bench. He breaks the gavel. He looks at a crowd of people who have been legally abused by their own leaders, and he reorients the entire cosmos. And to do it, he replaces the terrifying magistrate with a single, scandalous title. A title the legal experts would never dare to use. The title is Abba, Father. Jesus says it again and again. He says your Father knows what you need. He says your Father sees in secret. He says pray to your Father in heaven. This is a seismic theological shift. A judge demands a perfect record. A father demands a surrendered heart. A judge looks at a broken law and demands a penalty. A father looks at a broken child and provides a remedy. Instead, they get a voice from the fire that begins not with a threat, but with a reminder of rescue. The mountain is not a courtroom. Think about the most famous story Jesus ever told. Think about the prodigal son. The boy smells like pig manure. His clothes are stained. His feet are blistered. He walks up the dirt road practicing a legal defense. He thinks he is returning to a courtroom. He expects the gavel. He prepares for the sentence. But the father runs. The father throws his arms around the filth. The father kisses the dirt on his neck. The father does not read a list of charges. The father calls for a robe, a ring, and a feast. He is not an officer of the court. He is a father restoring a son. The Western Church forgot this story. We built the courtroom back up. We replaced the father's robe with a judge's robe. We traded the dirt road for a marble floor. We traded Torah for nomos. We traded instruction for compliance. We traded relationship for religion. But the text resists. The Hebrew roots still hold. The original vocabulary still bleeds through the English translation. Nomos requires perfection. Torah requires proximity. Nomos isolates the failure. Torah restores the posture. Nomos threatens death. Torah protects life. This changes everything. It changes how you read the 10 Commandments. They are not 10 arbitrary rules. They are 10 boundaries around a campfire in a dark, frozen forest. They keep you from wandering out into the teeth of predators. It is a classroom. The document Moses carries down the slope is not a legal trap waiting to be sprung. It changes how you read the ancient prophets. They are not prosecuting attorneys. They are older brothers shouting at you to step off the thin ice. Every terrifying warning in the Old Testament is a desperate plea. The fire on Sinai, the plagues in Egypt, the exile in Babylon. None of it is the cold administration of justice. All of it is the violent rescue of a stubborn child. God will break the bow to save the boy. He will burn the field to stop the wandering. Every time you read the word law in your Bible, a translation glitch occurs. Your brain defaults to the courtroom. Your anxiety spikes. Your defense mechanisms engage. You brace for impact. But the word underneath the ink is Torah. The word is Yara. The archer is still in the field. The bow is still in his hands. He does not stand at a distance with a clipboard. He steps into the dirt with his people. And centuries after Sinai, he steps into the dirt in human flesh. He feels the splintered wood. He takes the fatal arrow himself. He shatters the illusion of the cold. Legal deity forever. And it leaves you with a profound choice about how you will read this book from now on. It is a map for a people who have no idea how to walk in the dark. But for 2 millennia, we have read this story. A mountain shook with fire and smoke, and a father taught a nation of ex-slaves how to walk. 70 scholars translated a sacred word into Greek, and a cold legal cage was built around a living relationship. An archer missed the mark in a dry field, and a master stepped in to patiently adjust his grip. A scribe wrote 176 verses in the dark and wept over the beauty of a safe path. A modern generation suffocated under an impossible standard and rebelled against a judge who never actually sat on the bench. A rabbi sat on a hillside in the spring wind and tore down the courtroom to restore the instruction. A broken boy walked up a dirt road rehearsing a legal defense, and a father ran to cover him with a robe. One mistranslated word. One magnificent truth. But maybe the part that stays with me most is the hands. The calloused hands of the father placed gently over the trembling hands of the son in that dry field. Not the gavel. Not the bench. Not the terrifying distance of a magistrate assessing a penalty. Through a filter that the original authors never intended. We have taken the vibrant, dynamic, deeply relational language of the desert and shoved it into the incredible, patient proximity of a God who completely expects the arrow to fly wide and steps in closer anyway. If you are in a season where you feel crushed by an impossible spiritual standard, where your faith feels like an exhausting courtroom and you are tired of trying to manage your own defense step out of the courthouse, the gavel you keep hearing in your head does not belong to him. You do not serve a God who demands flawless compliance from a distance. You serve a God who offers deep formation in the dirt. And may the God, who was always a father before he was ever a judge, meet you exactly where you have missed the mark. Place his hands over yours and gently point the way home. The cold, sterile architecture of a Roman tribunal. We have transformed a father teaching his children how to live into a judge waiting. He is carrying 2 blank slabs of stone. Stepping into a storm cloud so thick, it feels like water on his skin, to throw the book at a criminal. The shift did not happen on the mountain. It happened centuries later, on the edge of the Mediterranean Sea. When a single translation choice changed the course of Western theology. The year is roughly 250 BC. The location is Alexandria, Egypt. The air smells of salt water and papyrus. 70 Jewish scholars sit in the shadow of massive stone columns. They hold reed pens. They are attempting the impossible. They are translating the Hebrew scriptures into Greek. The empire has changed. Greek is the language of commerce. It is the language of the streets. A new generation of Jews cannot read the scrolls of their ancestors. The scholars want to save the text. They want to make it accessible. So they begin to translate the language of the desert into the language of the city. Then they hit a wall. They reach the most sacred word in their vocabulary. The word is Torah. Greek has no exact equivalent. Greek is a language of sharp edges. It is a language of philosophy, distinct categories, and civic order. The Greeks invented Western jurisprudence. They built courts. They drafted legislation. When the scholars search for a Greek word to capture the essence of Torah, they make a fatal compromise. They choose the word nomos. Moses is about to receive the defining document of his people. If you grew up anywhere near a church, or even just in the West, nomos is a term of the state. Nomos is the decree of a king. Nomos is what a magistrate enforces. Nomos is what a citizen obeys. It knows nothing of mercy. It knows nothing of process. It is rigid. It is binary. You either keep the nomos, or you break the nomos. It carries a gavel. It wields a sword. It demands absolute compliance under threat of penalty. The choice was not a minor linguistic pivot. It was a theological earthquake. When you translate Torah as nomos, you change the character of the author. God stops being a guide. He becomes a legislator. The mountain of Sinai becomes a cosmic courthouse. The covenant is no longer a living relationship. It is a binding legal contract. Centuries later, European translators arrive. They look at the Greek text. They see nomos. They translate it into Latin as lex. They translate it into English as law. They capitalize the letter L, and the trap snaps shut. Western Christianity inherits a legal document. We inherit a terrifying, impossible standard. We read the Old Testament as a catalog of human failures. We read it as an exhausting, crushing list of thou shalts and thou shalt nots. We approach the text, looking for loopholes. We approach it trembling with guilt. But the ancient Jewish mind never viewed it that way. They did not see a courtroom. They saw a path. They did not feel the crush of a gavel. They felt the safety of a fence. You already know what to call the event that happens next. You call it the giving of the law. To understand what we lost in the ink of Alexandria, you have to look past the Greek. You have to strip away the Latin. You have to go back to the ancient Hebrew root. You have to step into an open field. And you have to watch an archer draw a bow. A father stands in a dry field. The grass is yellow under the midday sun. Next to him, a young boy holds a piece of bent wood and animal sinew. He is learning the art of the bow. The boy notches an arrow. He pulls the string back until it bites into the calluses on his fingers. He holds his breath, squints against the blinding glare, and lets go. The arrow cuts the wind with a sharp hiss. It flies wide. It buries itself in the dirt, far to the left of the mark. If we read this scene through the lens of a Roman courtroom, the father must now act as a magistrate. The boy has missed the target. He has violated the standard. The rule has been broken, so the penalty must be assessed, the failure recorded, and the punishment applied. But that is not what happens in the dirt. The father steps behind his son. He does not yell. He does not condemn. He places his calloused hands over the boy's trembling hands. He adjusts the grip on the wood. Most people assume that what God hands down on Sinai is a rigid legal code. We picture a cosmic courtroom. Imagining God as the ultimate, he lowers the shoulder. He lifts the chin. He points a single finger toward the target. Tracing the invisible path, the arrow must travel through the air. He points the way. He casts the vision. He guides the hand. This is the imagery of the ancient Near East. When nomadic tribes and early Israelites wanted to describe how God interacted with humanity, they did not borrow vocabulary from a courthouse. They did not have courthouses. They had tents. They had flocks. They had bows and arrows. They borrowed vocabulary from the earth, from the body, from the daily rhythm of survival. To their minds, divine instruction was not a list of abstract legal demands. It was a physical realignment. It was the rain falling on a dry seed, softening the ground so it could finally break open. It was a shepherd casting a stone to guide a wandering sheep back to the safe path. It was an archer, standing behind his son, patiently correcting his posture until the arrow flew true. The correction is not a condemnation. It is a formation. The father is not demanding an impossible perfection from a distance. He is intimately transferring his own wisdom into the muscle memory of his child. And deep inside, this physical, repetitive process of aiming, unyielding magistrate handing down a list of demands to a terrified population. We frame the entire Old Testament around this single central assumption, and guiding and pointing the way. A specific Hebrew action was captured in a single verb. It is a word that holds the secret to Mount Sinai. The verb is yara. It is an ancient Hebrew root word that predates the kingdoms of Israel. If you open a linguistic lexicon and trace it back to its origins, you will find it defined in physical, tangible terms. It means to cast a stone. It means to shoot an arrow. It means to point a finger to show someone the way. And it is from this deeply physical, active root that we get the noun, the entire world mistranslated. The noun is Torah. When you read the English translation of Exodus, or Leviticus, or Deuteronomy, you will see the word law printed in black ink over and over again. But the Hebrew scribes did not write a legal term on the parchment. They wrote Torah, because Torah does not mean legislation. Torah means instruction. It means teaching. It means direction. It carries the DNA of its root word, yara. When the biblical authors use this word, they are not evoking the image of a magistrate slamming a wooden gavel onto a bench. They are evoking the image of the archer in the field, making micro-adjustments to the posture of his son. If this subtle shift in translation is already dismantling a view of God you have carried for years, God gave Israel a constitution of impossible perfection, set the terms of punishment, and sat back to watch them inevitably fail. You are exactly who this channel is for. Hit subscribe and drop a comment below. Even one word helps, because every week we bypass the English filters to uncover the original pulse of the text. So, the Old Testament is reframed entirely. When you replace the Greek concept of nomos with the Hebrew concept of Torah, the relationship between God and humanity transforms. In a legal system, the goal is compliance. You either keep the law or you break the law. If you break it, the judge demands a penalty to satisfy the system. The system is cold. The system is binary. But instruction is different. The goal of instruction is not compliance. The goal of instruction is formation. When a student fails to grasp a concept, a good teacher does not immediately expel them from the school. When an archer misses the target, the master does not break the bow. The failure is expected. The failure is part of the process. The master steps in closer, adjusts the grip, and points the way again. Torah is not a legal trap designed to prove your guilt. It is a divine compass designed to keep you alive. This single etymological shift changes how you read every page of the Hebrew Bible. It changes how you view the prophets. It changes how you understand the concept of sin, which, in Hebrew, is chada, another archery term that literally translates to missing the mark. The foundational text of the Hebrew Bible is widely treated as a book of ancient jurisprudence, designed primarily to convict the guilty. But nowhere is this shift more dramatic than in the middle of your Bible. Because if you still believe God handed down an oppressive, exhausting list of legal demands, there is a piece of ancient poetry that makes absolutely no sense. A scribe sits in a stone room. The oil lamp flickers. He dips a reed pen into black ink. He scratches the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet onto the parchment, Aleph. He writes 8 lines. He moves to the next letter, Beth, 8 more lines. He does not stop. He writes until his fingers ache and the oil burns low in the bowl. He is composing a song. It is the longest song in the ancient world. It stretches for 176 verses. It uses every single letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It is a masterpiece. We call it Psalm 119. But look at the subject of the song. He is not writing about a woman. He is not writing about a military victory. He is writing about the rules. He is singing about the statutes. He is weeping with joy over the commandments. Read his actual words. He calls them sweet, like honey. He says they are better than thousands of pieces of gold and silver. He says they are his ultimate delight. And it is true that the text contains rules. It contains boundaries. But if you look closer at the condition of the people waiting at the bottom, he stays awake through the cold night watches, just to meditate on them. This makes absolutely no sense to the modern mind. You do not write a love letter to a traffic ticket. You do not compose a symphony for a tax code. You do not weep with affection over a magistrate's decree. If the document handed down at Sinai was a crushing, impossible legal standard, this man is delusional. He is suffering from ancient Stockholm syndrome. No human being delights in a system designed exclusively to condemn them. You hide from a system like that. You resent a system like that. But the scribe is not delusional. He is not singing about a legal code. He is singing about a lamp. He writes the most famous verse in the entire chapter. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. That is the language of Torah. That is the language of Yara. He is praising the Father in the field. He is thanking the archer for guiding his hands. The world outside his window is chaotic. It is filled with brutal empires and shifting moral sands. Without instruction, a man is just wandering in the dark, waiting to stumble. With it, he knows exactly where to step. He knows how to treat his neighbor. He knows how to harvest his field.